Alex, we're back.
Yeah.
How are you?
There was a pause there.
Yeah, because we had to wonder which Alex I was talking to.
Yeah.
Anyway,
exactly.
because Alex Baumgartner is back. Bomber, how are you? Oh, the dog's answering for you. How are you, man?
The dog was hyped for my appearance on the show. I'm happy. This time I am here with other Alex number one.
Yes.
But what's going on? We're missing someone. What's going on here?
The TTC sucks. Is the reason why our dear friend Daniel is not here. But again, he wants to make it very clear that Carter Verhaeghe is a special place for both you and he. So I think, obviously, people are going to be like, ask him about Quenneville, because you, of course, are a massive Panthers guy. You cover them and all that. But first, something on Carter Verhaeghe. No, we're not doing that. No, absolutely not. There is a lot. Let's see, first real question to start the show, Alex. And I think only you know what I'm about to ask, because Alex isn't going to understand it. Have you read Whole Cake Island?
It's been a busy time with the Panthers, unfortunately.
And just like that, thank you for coming on. No. All right, we'll move on. We'll keep that in mind. But seriously, it has been somehow an up and down season with the Panthers, despite the fact that the only loss they have nearly 3 weeks into the year is in the shootout. And of course, that is being Joel Quenneville is no longer the coach of the Florida Panthers. We know he met with Gary Bettman, and that same day he steps down. Bettman agreed with it. But sort of rewinding here, Alex, once the report came out about everything to do with the Blackhawks, and you saw some of it, and then you saw that Joel Quenneville was coaching that game, what were your reactions sort of going back there?
So initially when the report came out, I still haven't read the whole thing, but I read a lot of the parts where he was mentioned. So I got more into detail with that, like the day of that game. And I was pretty surprised that he was coaching. Mm-hmm. Obviously we saw the Kyle Beach TSN segment, and then I'm like, there's no way they're going to let him coach, right? Mm-hmm. There's no way. And then he was behind the bench, and I said, wow, this is going to be a very, very interesting post-game press conference. And, well, we can get into that in a second.
Mm-hmm. The initial Baumber-Bomb, actually, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, I remember seeing it. I didn't even see the original tweet. I saw it from someone else who quote tweeted it. That's why I'm like, I know that name. I recognize that name for a second.
You might have been like the first person to actually say that Quenneville wasn't speaking. We can go there. That Quenneville wasn't speaking to the media, and all of a sudden, like you was just. Well, how many retweets did you think you had, or quote tweets?
So last time I checked, there was like 500 quote tweets, 700,000 impressions. Like,
jeez.
Well, I guess that's what happens when because I do believe I was the first one to get it out there that he wasn't speaking to the media. Mm-hmm. Just based off of like the timeline of all the people that were in that press conference. Mm-hmm. So I think Wisniewski, or ever how you pronounce it, was that like quote tweeted it right away. And a couple like Grinelli quote tweeted it. Like there was a lot of people just quote tweeting it. A lot of people were saying, like, what the hell just happened? You coach the game and you don't talk to the media. So that's kind of how that was how that day went for the Panthers. You let him coach, you play the game, you don't let him speak to the media, and then you have the hearing or whatever it was, the meeting, not a hearing, the meeting with Bettman the next day.
What did you, sorry, before I just quickly throw to Alex here, just one thing I wanted to ask you here is, so I want to say it was that morning he spoke, but he didn't say much. I believe it was simply I understand you got to do your job. It almost sounded like a Tortorella press conference. But
the post-morning skate, he did speak to the media that were there.
And really, the only real thing of note that he said about that was, and I believe he was asked, would this be a distraction in the room, and it was very much poor words coming from Joe Quenneville. I'm going to paraphrase here, is we try and eliminate all distractions, which, if you've read the Jenner and Block report, was not the best words for Joe Quenneville to use.
Yeah, definitely surprising that he was coaching that night.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he should have been coaching. It's like when a player gets suspended, they need to do their hearing before they can, play a game, go to practice, whatever it is. Why isn't it the same for a coach, especially in this circumstance? I think that's kind of what people were questioning the league for. And then I haven't seen too much about what happened today with the league, but I saw some of the quotes and it was interesting with Bettman.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting is a word. Yeah. That
What
would
was
best
it
describe
he?
it.
What was he? Sorry to cut you off here, Alex. Main Alex. But I think the thing was, what was it Gary said? I didn't want to he was like, should he have
Prejudge.
coached? Yes or no, but I wanted to make sure that no one, including Joel Quenneville, thought that I had prejudged him, which is just ludicrous. And I think he then numbered how many games Quenneville had coached since 2010. It was like, okay, Gary, maybe that's lawyer speak.
The thing I don't understand is what happened between the day that the Jenner and Block investigative report came out and what happened in that not lengthy meeting between Quenneville, Bettman, with Matthew Caldwell, one of the presidents / CEO of the Panthers, and Bill Zito were in the room as well. What happened in that hour time frame that changed the judgment? Because it's not a court hearing. Like, he's not going up against a jury. There wasn't any other evidence. It's what that report said.
Yeah. And the leak. So I think it was CJ who said it. It might have been Friedman, one of those two. Like, the league had that report Monday morning.
So they had it even before it got released.
Before everybody else. So they still said, we'll meet with Quenneville. I guess it would have been Thursday, and we'll meet with Cheveldayoff on the Monday, which obviously got boofed, but it was just, the whole thing was ridiculous. I'm really curious to know, though, what the pulse of the fan base was when that came out, whether, like, if you want to talk about the night of that game against the Bruins, as well as like when he got fired, like what was the thought among the fan base?
So there was a couple of different things that happened, and as a reporter, journalist, whatever you want to call me, I'm not actively participating in fan discussions. However, I do see what's going on with the Panthers Twitter. I think I saw mixed reviews or mixed opinions when that report came out. A lot of people were like, oh, you don't know anything yet, like this, that. I don't think enough people actually read the entirety of the report for them to know what they were talking about. They were looking at screen grabs on Twitter. Then when the Kyle Beach in interview came out, immediately I saw the same people flip and say, no, like, he shouldn't be coaching tonight. He needs to be gone. At least that's what I saw quite frequently. A lot of people are kind of jumping back to like, okay, this isn't, like, once you put a face to a name, it's like you get the human connection. I think that's what a lot of people, not just for the Panthers fan base, just in the hockey community, really just like sympathize with that. And then when he resigned, a lot of people are like, okay, yeah, like that was the right choice. Like, get it out of the way, like focus on the team, because these players weren't with the Blackhawks. Any of them weren't, but they also had Quenneville as the coach. So it's like, move on from Quenneville, because what needed to be done was done in terms of him not being the Panthers coach.
It was, I don't want to say weird, because it, like, to me, it was weird how much consensus there was among not even, I guess, people just in Florida, but across the entire league. And I think we were recording at the same time it all went down last Wednesday. But like, from all sides, like from sides you'd usually expect to go head to head, that we were all in agreement that he really shouldn't have been behind the bench that night. And it was odd to see.
You know who probably thought he should have been behind the bench, and who probably didn't read the report either? Probably Jonathan Taves.
So here's the thing with the Taves, Kane, like these guys' comments. The Panthers players, when they were asked about it the day after, because they played a back-to-back, immediately it was like, we feel for Kyle Beach. That should never have happened. Obviously, they're not going to be like slandering Quenneville because they didn't know about this until 2 days before, but they were also not defending him. They were just like, what's important now is that we listen to Kyle, and Jonathan Huberdeau had good quotes. Barkov had good quotes. Ekblad had really good quotes. It seems like everyone in the NHL player-wise had really good quotes except for the players that played on that Blackhawks team.
The best quote of the day was Alex DeBrincat, who was 23 years old.
He was 12 when this happened.
Yeah. And he's the one with the best quote. It was just, it's off-putting. And I mean, we had that discussion last episode, but like, it was just off-putting to see the entire thing.
So, Alex Baumgartner, I have a question for you.
Just for the sake of this episode, we'll go with Bomber for today.
Okay, good. Okay, so Bomber, I have a question here. And actually, that's why you're here, to answer our questions. What are Anthony Duclair and Sergei Bobrovsky going to say when John?
I think you cut out a bit, but you're definitely asking about Tortorella, right?
Yes.
Marcus Nudavara as well was also a Blue Jacket at one point. I don't see, the thing is, I said it when it happened. A lot of people were in agreement with me. Obviously, there's always the people that will challenge you when you have a statement on Twitter. I said, don't hire someone within 2 hours of realizing you have to make the decision to not have Joel Quenneville as your coach when 2 days ago you didn't think this was going to happen. So don't hire someone at 1 a.m. Specifically, don't hire John Tortorella, who's had multiple players at one time. He had 3 players, a couple players from that Columbus team that are now in Florida, all of whom are playing well, specifically Bob and Duclair. So, yeah, that's something where Zito was there. Zito was in Columbus. Zito's not a stupid guy. He knows the relationship that Duclair and Torts had. He knows the relationship that Bobrovsky and Torts had. I don't really think he was accounting too much for Marcus Nudavara's feelings. But, yeah, I don't know if Torts will be the coach of the Panthers at one point. I do have to say that same day when the Quenneville meeting was happening, Tortorella went on ESPN and said Barkov is the number 1 player in the world. Now, if you said top 3, I would be like, okay, maybe he's being legitimate because, you know, McDavid, you can go McKinnon, Crosby, like there's a couple different like Barkovs like up there. Mm-hmm. But this guy said, nope, he is the best player in the NHL.
Listen, man, do the line anything and make Barkov into a power forward. Forget the skill. Okay, well, obviously right now Andrew Brunette is the interim coach. Does he stick? Obviously, you would know a lot more about him. Or is it maybe the end of the year or within the coming weeks or months, there is a full process and there's a different person behind the bench? Is it going to be Julian? Do they go after him? Or what do you see happening with the coaching situation in Florida?
Honestly, the reason why I said keep it in-house for now is see how Brunette, Al Samuelson, Derek McKenzie, see how these guys who have been in this system can keep this system going. The system worked last season. The system's really working this season. And I mean, your one loss this year, 2 games under Brunette, your one loss is on a back-to-back against Boston in a shootout with Spencer Knight playing his first game in his like home city for hockey because he's from the Connecticut area, played in Boston for university. If Brunette does well, he still might be interim the entirety of the season, but I don't expect a change just because that means the system that the Panthers have been working with all season and like last season is still working. The players know what they're doing. The players respect. Like it's a tough situation for the players because your coach resigned because of a terrible situation, like unspeakable about what happened. And it's not like he got fired because he was bad at coaching hockey. It's like, this is more important than hockey. This is why he's not there anymore. Mm-hmm. And the players and the coaching staff all have to come together. Andrew Brunette said we're a family and we have to come together at times like this. And I think that's what makes me think the players really want to keep it in-house for now.
Mm-hmm. Hey, fair enough. It's not easy to replace probably the second best coach of all time, or the argument's sake there.
It's not even about how good of a coach he was when he was coaching. It's just that like the news hits you so quickly, and like when you see like it affects everyone because like this is a 20-year-old guy it happened to when it happened to. Like it's more than hockey. And like the guy that you've been looking at for 3 years in the room as your leader, like you don't have the same opinions on him anymore. You don't have the same feelings. So I think that's what's gonna like it's more mental than how is Quenneville's system gonna translate with the assistant coaches.
Anything you wanted to ask Alex before we move on to? Okay, go ahead then.
I gotta ask about Bobrovsky. I know
Bobrovsky.
I gotta ask because I don't know which Sergei Bobrovsky we have anymore. Which one is it? Because you know what the joke was, he'd have like an on year and then an off year, but it seemed like his first 2 years in Florida were not fantastic, and now he's just on a blazing start in his first 6 games. Like, is it a matter of like something he's doing different? Because to me, looking at the team, I wouldn't say there was drastic changes. The players just got better.
So there's a couple of things that happened over the offseason with Bobrovsky. First of all, Chris Dreer is no longer the Panther, which means Spencer Knight was for sure going to be on the team. I could kind of foretell they weren't going to have the 20-year-old become the day one starter, specifically after seeing the up and down year Carter Hart had. They're not stupid. You don't need to put that much pressure. And I said it over and over again. Spencer Knight is coming into, this is before the season. Spencer Knight's coming into quite possibly one of the best teams contending for a Stanley Cup next season. That's a lot of pressure to put on a guy that's younger than all of us in the Zoom call are right now. Bobrovsky has 2 Vezinas. Bobrovsky had that big contract. Bobrovsky on his game can play. Can Bobrovsky do it? Comes into the season, playing lights out. He had a kid. That's why he's going by Dad Bob now. It seems like a lot of these athletes, they'll have a child and they just turn it up. Fred VanVleet. Tyler Hero had a child in the offseason, and now the dude's putting up 20 off the bench. Bobrovsky looks like he is on his way to being another Vezina caliber season almost. So he also deleted social media. He told George Richards of Florida Hockey Now, I believe, he deleted social media. So all the news or rumors in the offseason, Bob didn't know any of it. Kept his mind on track. I think that's why his game's translating so well.
Well, there's a player in Toronto who should delete his social media.
And I've scored 1 goal and I'm good again. Anyway, just for context for people listening, here are the numbers for for Spencer Knight and Sergei Bobrovsky. And yes, when you're on the show, you nailed the thing about Bobrovsky starting. So Spencer Knight right now is 2-0-1. And again, small sample size. His goals against average is under 2. His save percentage is a .929. Sergei Bobrovsky is 6-0. His goals against 1.8. His save percentage is a .944. And I was listening to an episode. I think it was of you on. Sorry, I don't want to get the title wrong.
5 Reasons Sports.
5 Reasons Sports. And one of your co-hosts said something really interesting that I wanted to mention here, and it was celebrating the players. And there is a lot to celebrate about the Panthers players right now, a.k.a. just quickly, got some of their stats up. Both Ekblad, of course, Barkov and Hubert are all point per game right now. Duclair is scoring. Bennett's had a blazing start. It looks like Reinhardt's fitting in just well. And Verhaeghe, 3 goals. There you go, Daniel. It seems like the Panthers were good last year, but I have this belief that the playoffs can change a team. And it seems like to start the year at least, the Panthers came out of that series against Tampa. Yeah, they lost, but my goodness, are they on a mission to start?
The Panthers came out of the offseason pissed because they ran 3 different goalies in the playoffs. They were without their best defenseman, and they still took the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions to 6 games. The Panthers were pissed. Because if you think Panthers fans were mad about the whole circumventing the cap and the Battle of Florida, imagine how the players felt knowing like, shit, these guys are 20 million over us and we're just as good as them. We should be there. So I think losing to a Stanley Cup champion, specifically when they're your in-state rival, and they clearly hate each other. Because you watch every Battle of Florida last season, those guys hate each other. And I know Tampa, if anyone they would not want to play in the first round, it's going to be Florida. They don't want to play Florida.
even that preseason game when I think it was like Corey Perry like had tackled Andre Vasilevsky. It was just a whole thing.
Oh, Bennett hit Vasilevsky. Perry and Bennett went at it. Perry and Tippett went at it. Pat Maroon was getting slapped by someone. Like,
and then Hornquist is just there like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be God. You just kind of think about it, man. The Panthers are just they are. I can't swear on this, but there's a way to describe this team plays. It's not fun. Alex, anything you wanted to ask about the players here?
No, just Bobrovsky.
Yo, shout out, by the way, to 5 points for Mason Marchment to start the year. You love to see it. You love to see it. You love to see it.
shout out
Okay.
to Joe Thornton converting on power play opportunities.
I want to say, funny enough, his last goal as a Leaf may have been a power play goal.
I believe
I think it was against Montreal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was in the playoffs, I think. That
That's
was the one game
insane.
where the power play works, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Alex, you work at the Hockey Hall of Fame, and I wanted to ask you to tell a story you told me, and that was about meeting the Perrys. I want you to tell this story because we still miss Corey Perry on the show, both Daniel and I, of course, for obvious reasons.
Yeah, so it's cool to like talk to NHL families and stuff like that because they're really like, humble people, and they kind of just don't like. They were saying, oh yeah, like we know, like you pick the games, and like the play, like Frederick Anderson was one of the players, like, oh yeah, my husband knows them, stuff like that, but like they wouldn't say who they
so
were.
weird.
So like the kid had a Perry jersey, I'm like, oh, it's cute, like it's probably Corey Perry's like son or something, but like yeah, it's cool to just meet people and athletes and stuff like that.
That's gonna be so cool. And you work in the cup room, right?
I work everywhere, it's a cup room, like the game, stuff like that. Like you meet a lot of different people from different places. Like every time I'm there, like people from Switzerland or Germany come, and like my dad's from Switzerland, so I always talk to them like, oh yeah, like Nico Hirschier, Roman Josi. Like we'll talk about like the Swiss National League and like players over there. I had a guy asking me if I knew who the David Moser was. I'm like, yeah, I know David Moser. He's like, oh yeah, he's in the AHL right now. It's cool to just like connect with people. So yeah, like we talked with like the Perrys, and it was just cool. And induction week's coming up soon, so we're gonna see guys like Aginla, Hossa, Holland, Lowe, Kim St. Pierre. It's gonna be a nice time.
Good. And because I know you love this question, how many Stanley Cups are there, Alex?
There are 3 Stanley Cups. One is right here. It always stays right here all the time. There's one in the vault. It's the original Stanley Cup bowl with the bands. 1963, I believe, was the last time it was on the Stanley Cup. And then the Traveling Cup, that's the presentation cup. The Tampa Bay Lightning did have it at the start of the season, and they just returned it. So those are the 3 Stanley Cups.
You can tell in his voice how many people have asked him that question.
I say it every day, 20 times, 30 times, like.
You cut out a bit. Can you explain it again? No, I'm kidding.
I don't know about that. You have to pay admission to the Hockey Hall of Fame for you to hear this. This is the one-time only story. Never again.
Only here on the 2-in-1 podcast. All right.
Plug it.
All right. Before we let you go here, Alex, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
All right. So whenever we have you on again, who knows? Maybe we'll do a New Year's thing. Maybe we'll preview the Olympics with you. Who knows? You're always a great guy to talk to. I just hope that next time you're here, we can talk about Whole Cake Island.
Next time I'm here, it's gonna be me, Alex, and Daniel, and you're not gonna be on
Of
the
course.
episode.
Yeah.
No,
that's
it's just
inevitably what's going to
Oh
happen.
God, I've traveled for some reason. What do we do? Who knows?
You're
But
like Cozumel or something while I'm on the podcast.
you've taken my spot. Then it's just that was your plan. Is you're picking us off one by one. It's still and then
I'm gonna be the host next time too. I'm like, so Alex, we're back.
It's funny, like, I was playing Halo with Mike Jagasar the other day, and it was just every time we respawn, because we were playing Halo 3 Legendary, he's just like, and we're back. And I'm like, leave me alone. It's a meme. Okay, anyway, because we took you the entire episode last time you were on, Alex.
It was fun. Come on.
It was. Well, are you free now for a bit?
I'm free as long as you guys are free. That
Okay.
makes no sense.
Okay, it's fine. Hey, okay, so I guess we can quickly move on to a few things here. we spoke a bit about Taves and Kane earlier. I mean, just read the room. The commissioner did talk, but I think we're going to wait until next episode to talk about it, just because I know Alex and I haven't fully listened to the full press conference, and I feel like we should have Daniel for that. And then probably next episode, when we know a bit more about this meeting that happened today between Donald Fuhr and the Players Association, maybe he'll be gone. Who knows and all of that. But first off, Alex, if you excuse me, I feel like we need to start talking about the Canadians today. Because Twitter exploded. Yesterday, a conversation started going around when Dom Ducharme was asked if there was a possibility that Cole Caulfield was going to be sent to the AHL. And Habs Twitter had been talking about it for a few days. It happened today. Michael Pizzetta comes up in his place. For any of you who don't know who he is, he's a chippy young player, had a good camp, but anyway. Is it the right decision, you think, Alex?
Which one?
Cole Caulfield. Oh, yeah. No, remember, he's bomber for today.
Sorry. Yes. I think it's the right decision if he's struggling. And I think we've had this discussion the last 2 episodes, but I think the Montreal Canadiens are having a slightly difficult time, adjusting to life without, I would argue, their 3 most important players. I think that's what the reality is here. And I think, you know what, if you give time, Caulfield, Caulfield's going to go down to Laval and he's probably going to murder it. Like, the chances of him not are quite low, but I think give him some time, build up that confidence, and then bring him back when things seem to be a little more in control, because it seems like things are out of control a little bit right now.
Yeah, 2 wins when you're nearly 3 weeks into the season is a bit of a concern, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Bomber, I want to ask you this, because right now, as Alex mentioned, they've lost Shea Weber, they've lost Carey Price, and they've lost Philip Deneau. 3 things that really, if you look at their cup run, it was good goaltending, great defensive play, clearing the front of the net, and shots from the outside, as we know. And then 3 most important players of that is gone. They now have a core that it is young. There is some talent there, we know, with Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki, but they don't have an identity. Now, I would see this as there's a way to build the team and your style of play around those young players, and the Canadians haven't done that. Would you agree with that? And also, what's your take on the fact that Cole Caulfield, I had him winning the Calder this year and is instead now going to be fighting for the Calder Cup?
Yeah, so you can quickly change Anton Lundell to your Calder favorite. I'll let you do that right now.
Get out of here.
And no, I did not take him or Knight. I had Zegers winning the Calder. But the Habs have I've watched the Habs for quite a while, and from as far as I can remember, the Habs have always been in the middle of something. So they're either in the middle of contending for a cup, like they're not there on paper as like a cup favorite, but they have a team that's good enough to make a run in the playoffs, or they're a team that's like not good enough, not bad enough to be like a rebuilding team, but not good enough to be like a playoff lock. It's like, choose something.
17th place.
Do you want to rebuild? Do you want to rebuild? Do you want to retool? You can't just full send it into a Stanley Cup run. Not with this team. Like last year, I'll agree, it was a very good run. The way the NHL's formatted this season, it's not going to happen again. Mm-hmm. So, like, what are you guys doing? Do you you said there's no identity. It's like, how is this team supposed to play? Like last year in the playoffs, it's like, this is the best penalty killing you've ever seen. Like, it was a defensive-minded team that was able to kind of catch you on the counter and have a brick wall behind you net. Now it's like you're missing all these guys and you're just kind of lost.
I was looking at obviously, they just finished their sort of Western road trip, aka California, and they had Seattle in there. They go against Seattle, they get pumped. They go up against LA, and Phil Deneau had a great game, by the way. They get pumped. And you mentioned their penalty kill. Before the game against Anaheim, I think it was at 65%. And I'm pretty sure Anaheim had a pair. By the way, shout out to Cedric Paquette getting a 2-game suspension for braining Trevor Zegras. Probably should have gotten more. They win in San Jose for the first time since I was a month old. Which, yeah, bravo, it's San Jose. Since I said they were legit again, They've lost, I think, 3 or 4 straight, by the way.
We got to
Just wanted
stop
mention
doing that. We really got to stop doing that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Mitch Marner's been off scores ago. Anyway, so I want to ask both of you. Don't look this up.
Okay.
Do you guys know who was skating as second line center at Habs practice today? Baumgartner first. Who do you think
Alex
it was?
Galchenyuk, 2012.
I wish. Alex, who do you think it was?
I know the answer. It's on our documents. I will refrain from answering.
Oh, I did.
Is it like a crazy name that I wouldn't even have heard of?
No, you've heard of him. They've tried it before. Is your hint?
Is it Drouin?
It is. He's playing second line. See, here's what's annoying, right? He's having a good year. Like, the best hockey he's played is the Hab. Mentally, he's in a great place. And they're back in, and they put him back in the position
You know
that
what they
ruined him in
say.
the first place.
If it works, change it.
Exactly.
I believe that's Dominic Ducharme's favorite saying, right, Adam?
Well, his is something about snowballing, and the Canadians just continue to snowball, if you want to put it like that. It's such a rough go right now. Oh, we should mention, by the way, because a big headline coming out of the game against Anaheim, I wish Daniel was here for this. Ryan Getzlaf is now the all-time leading scorer in Ducks history. I thought that was really, really cool. I just wish it wasn't against the Habs.
We'll dedicate like an hour for next episode just on.
I don't know about that. Okay. Again, the Habs are bad. Please get better. I can't take 70 more games of this. It's too difficult. Anyway, quickly going to the Leafs here then. They've won some games.
Did beat
No, the mic hates me. Am I good again? Can you hear me?
You're good, man.
Okay, so you look at the Leafs. They pull out some after losing to Frederick Anderson and the Canes. That was a bit of a situation, wasn't it? They beat the Blackhawks after being down 2-0. They also come in and have a pretty wild game against Detroit. They were wins and you needed them, but I kind of came out of it and I thought, okay, there was a common theme in that Detroit game first off, that it was Leafs get ahead by 2, Detroit strike back. I feel like that's a game that you're lucky to have won. Not lucky, I should say. But if I'm Sheldon Keefe, there's still a lot there. And even if it's, again, the Chicago game, you appreciate the win, but you shouldn't fall down 2-0 to a Chicago team that should have just been destroyed that entire night, considering they haven't won a game yet.
Yeah, like nothing has changed since last episode. Like most of my thoughts are the exact same because the whole thing was, and I think people are very confused by this or just clearly not listening, is it's not about the stats and it's not about winning. It's about, well, yes, it's about winning at the end of the day, but it's about playing a full 60-minute game, and this team continues to fail at doing that. Marner could have 150 points, but if it come playoff time or come the most important game of the year, if the effort level or what I'm watching is not 100% a full 60-minute game, it's what the downfall of the team is. It's game 5, game 6, and game 7 against Montreal. It's game 5 against Columbus. It's games 6 and 7 against Boston the year before that. Like, it's just time and time again the most important games. And it's not just Marner. Like, it's everybody on the team. I think we got up in a blaze of glory about Justin Hall being scratched. Sorry, he hasn't looked good. Like, it's just the reality that we're living in, and we're still pretending that all that matters is if they get the 2 points or not. Where you're supposed to be a contending team, and a lot of your guys make big boy money, and they're not playing like it.
Bomber, before the season, I want to say, I don't remember if it was on the show or I might have texted you on Twitter, how we normally talk, but we had a conversation. It was like, who's better, the Leafs or Florida? We should have asked who was better, the Panthers or anyone in the Atlantic Division. But, obviously we talk about the Leafs and Habs mainly on the show, but as a sort of outsider, what are your thoughts on the Leafs and the way their season is going so far?
The Leafs are the most confusing franchise. Normally in the regular season, they're kind of like a powerhouse. They're just putting up goals everywhere. Not necessarily the best offensive team, but you'll be top 5, top 6 in goals for in the season. They're 5th in the Atlantic now. They're pretty much 4-1. So you're in the middle of the pack right now, but it's the early on in the beginning of the season. It's almost better that the Leafs aren't just piling their way through the Atlantic right now, because they normally will get in the playoffs comfortably and then just not show up in the playoffs. So maybe this will help them.
Mm-hmm. You have a lot more optimism than I do.
I'm just seeing this from an outsider, because it's been a running joke. No first round since 2004, but you've been a regular season juggernaut for the last 4 years. That's why I tell Leafs fans, yeah, even though you're not better than the Panthers, like, don't kill yourselves over it. It's okay.
Yeah, man. Like the Kings in 2012, I think it was, when they won the Cup, they were the 8th seed in the West. Mm-hmm. Like, they got Jeff Carter at the deadline and made the playoffs. Like, I know, like, that's always a possibility. Montreal last year finished 4th in the Canadian division, almost missed the playoffs and made it to the Cup final. Like, these things are possible. It's just when players ask for $11 million, or when players compare themselves to players they're clearly not, it's just your expectations get dramatically bigger. I don't think this is like I think a lot of people like to say it's just a Toronto thing, but I know it's not just a Toronto thing.
Speaking of Con, my mic's just, I'm done with
That's
it.
okay.
It's gone. Speaking of quick deals, I forgot to ask you this earlier, Bomber. So we'll just quick note. How nice is that Barkov deal, by the way?
It's worth every single penny. Like, that was a discount. People will compare contracts to discounts. No, Barkov taking 10's a discount. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously the no state tax helps. Just being the voice of Panthers hockey will help. Like, you'll get his sponsorship deals, and just being Alexander Barkov, being the humble guy he is. I mean, I say humble, having $80 million, being $80 million richer, but yeah, that's a great deal. And I'm ready for Huberdeau to sign for 8.8.
Same in Montreal. Yeah. French guy with Sid, Kadri.
This is what happened. Huberdeau, the same day you messaged me something about Huberdeau in Montreal, like as a joke, Huberdeau posts on his Instagram stories, chilling in his mansion in Fort Lauderdale with the canal and like 20-degree weather, his big pool, the canal, the boats in the back. And he's like, I love this life. And I'm just like, I posted it on my Twitter. I'm like, yeah, he ain't going anywhere.
I can dream that a star player is going to come to Montreal one day. But speaking of contracts, by the way, out of nowhere, the Morgan Reilly contract just showed up. It's the full 8 years. It's $60 million. The AAV is 7.5. There's a full if only I could talk. There's a full no move for the first 6 years. It's a bit modified when it comes to the last 2 years. Not a lot of signing bonuses, which I thought was pretty interesting. Listen, I think I've been extremely critical of Morgan Reilly on this podcast. And if people say this is a hometown discount, I'm not going to listen to them. I'm not. It's just not going to happen. Like, he's not Charlie McAvoy. He's a good player.
No, but I think if he went to open market, he would have gotten more. I genuinely believe that. Like, Cody Ceci got 3.5. You will not pull me away from the fact that I'm not saying this is a hometown discount. It would have been an overpayment if he made that on the UFA market, but I believe he would have got more if he went to free agency.
Well, have you guys seen some of these other defensive contracts though? Like,
yes.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, we looked at them all together.
So I don't know if you guys are going to talk about this later, but that deal in New York that just happened 40 minutes ago.
Oh,
we will.
All right, so let's not spoil it there, but I still think 7.5 is like what Reilly would have gotten on the market, maybe a little bit more, but I don't think he's worth that much.
No, I don't. I think was it 2 episodes ago, Adam? I'm like, yeah, $8 million is my turning point, and like I'm not even comfortable with that.
What did Parayko get again? Was it 6.5?
6.5.
I think I compared that. I'm like, obviously different style defenseman, but for levels, I've always thought like that was accurate. But I mean, it was a question of could they keep him? Like, the thing is, if you lose Morgan Reilly, who steps into his place? Like, it's a difference between Sandin looks good with Lillian right now and compared to top pair and having all the stress, right? Like, I said this a couple episodes too. It's like eventually they didn't bite with Hyman. The Leafs were going to have to bite on a contract they didn't love.
Right.
And I think Morgan Reilly is that contract.
And you say who's going to replace him? You brought up on the ice, but I think off the ice as well. The same thing. Like I know he's only an assistant captain, but less than 3 years ago, we were having the conversation of, is Morgan Reilly going to be the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs? And I think there's plenty of people who would have made the argument, yes, as I believe I made that argument. You did as well.
Yeah.
Made that argument. Like, you remove Hyman from that room. You removed lots of guys over the last 4 or 5 years, and for reasonable reasons. There's not a whole lot of guys left on this roster who are vocal leaders. Like, we know John Tavares, like that All or Nothing said, isn't necessarily the most vocal leader, but it's a leader you can follow by example. And I think what the Leafs have in a couple of these guys is vocal leaders. And I'm really hoping the guys who make $1 bajillion can do that as well. But to have Morgan Reilly, who you know is going to do that, it is tremendous for a room that, if I'm being honest, seems fragile at every moment.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I want to see Marner score a goal that isn't a gimme from the goaltender. I know they say it's just one, but listen, again, we talked a lot about like the big thing of him being on the bumper on the power play, and it hasn't quite transitioned yet. But you mentioned it earlier, Bomber, so we can just talk about the Adam Fox deal now. A lot was made about Detroit. I mean, not Detroit. That this was going to be the big one for the Rangers. Obviously they have some big tickets already signed up. We know Kreider, we know Panarin, we know all those guys. Jacob Trouba is obviously a big deal. They locked up Shesterkin over the offseason. But this was probably the most important one. Mika Zibanejad obviously was just done too. It's 8 years. It's $9.5 million. Okay, so let's do a thing here. Robert, is he better than Werenski? Yes or no?
Yes.
Is he better than Seth Jones? Yes or no?
Yes.
Is he better than Charlie McAvoy? Yes or no?
That's closer, but he has a Norris.
Yeah, and final one, is he better than Dominic Nurse?
Yes.
So I think we can all agree this is a pretty damn good contract for the reigning defending Norris Trophy winner.
Yes.
Yeah. That's like the one contract, that and the McAvoy were like the two that you mentioned that I was, and just like, whoa, they got a lot of money.
It's funny that if you mention, you obviously get up the comparables, and you just see right away, okay, there's McAvoy, there's Makar, who's at 9, but that's for 6 years. Hey, a little more than Heiskanen, but you can understand that. Also, by the way, like, how happy are the Stars that they did Heiskanen as early as they did? Like, that's a really, really, like, nice deal for them. I hate to see the Rangers doing well, because Mike's going to be like, oh, great, here you go. But yeah, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
The Rangers, I just saw a tweet. I don't know if, like, it was 54.9%, but I think there's okay, here it is. The Rangers, 54.16% of the current 81.5 million cap will be tied up between Panarin, Zibanejad, Trouba, Kreider, and Fox next season. That's a lot of cap in 5 players.
No comment. No comment. I will be making no comment on such issues.
You know, the one that worries me there, that was Kreider. Like, that's the one where I'm like, maybe him and Trouba, but I think Trouba's been a little better to start this year than he was last, but... And then you see Barclay Goodrow, and you're like, yeah, that doesn't help. That doesn't help, does it? How's Kravtsov doing? Oh, wait. Elias Anderson? Who? We don't want to talk about it. Okay. You've chosen a good episode, by the way, to be on here, Bomber. I have this stat. This is, I think it's a couple of weeks old. Do you guys know who has the most multi-goal road games in history now?
Sam Bennett.
No. He's passed Gretzky for this record. At least it's Alex Ovechkin. So allow me to just quickly get up the goal leaders. Alex, were you recently followed by an account called OV Goal Counter?
I think so.
Bomber, I believe you were as well. That is me.
I
have made
was.
that account. Okay, so as of right now, Brett Hull is only 2 goals ahead of Ovechkin. Ovi's at 739. So I just needed to highlight this. He has been so good to stick. I was worried about him last year when he was like, yeah, he's got a little hot, but it just wasn't all together for him. But to start the year, he is on a mission, and you can tell. It is amazing to watch.
It is because I think you brought up last year. It just seemed like something was weird with that team, the Capitals. They kind of went up and down and then ended up losing to Boston in the playoffs. And personally, I was stunned when they lost. The expectations for me for that Washington team were a lot higher. So to see them, or him specifically, with such a good start is really good to see, because I genuinely believe he can break that record.
And by the way, he is 155 away, if anyone was curious.
Wow.
I really hope he does it. I just imagine getting to live through the moment of Alex Ovechkin scoring and passing Wayne Gretzky's record. Because you know what's going to happen against the Habs or Leafs, because it always does. But not to mention, though, like Carey Price and like a combination of Bernier and that must account for so many of that man's goals. Same with like Stamkos in that. Jason Spezza too. Jason Pominville was another weird one. They just ripped Montreal apart. It's hilarious. Not really, but okay. Jack Eichel. So last week, I believe it was first, Frank Saravelli said that Vegas and Buffalo had sort of started some intense trade talks. Then it calmed down. Friedman on 32 Thoughts said, we've calmed down here. But then Darren Dreger said Saturday the teams were heating back up. Then the reports started to come out that it was between Calgary and Vegas. We're still waiting. I don't know what to say about this now other than, can we just figure this out now? Because it's getting a little comical. Like, just make the deal. Because first off, if Vegas are doing that, like, Pacioretty is going the other way, right? Because we knew they were trying to trade him before. They have to make the money work. Or they just sit him for the rest of the year. But think of it. They have to give up something. Like, what do Vegas still have to give up of value?
So I think the rule with the LTIR is, because I'm assuming that's what you meant, is he has to technically be able to fit on the squad. He has to be an active part of your roster before you can throw him on LTIR. So they would still somehow have to fit him under the cap, but seemingly every day someone else is ending up on IR or LTIR. So magic.
I have a question.
Yep.
Pacioretty has a 10-team no trade list. There is absolutely zero chance that this guy has a Buffalo as one of those teams that he would allow the trade to be made to. There's absolutely no chance, right?
So it's the 7 Canadian teams and Buffalo,
Arizona.
Let's throw Columbus in there. I feel like
sure. Let's throw Columbus in there. I mean, like, they do have to give up someone.
Shall we go through to see who actually makes money and doesn't have trade protection? I have cap friendly. Sure. Okay, so Pacioretty we know doesn't work. Alex Tuck, 5 more years of 4.7, no trade protection. That'll help. You're not going to trade Laurent Brossoit.
No.
No, you're not trading Shea Theodore. Braden McNabb makes 2.5, but you kind of need him because you don't have any more D. You're not trading White Cloud either because you just extended him, and it's still not enough. Besides that, Chandler Stevenson at 2 points. No, you don't have any centers to begin with. Evgeny Dadonov has trade protection, and why would you want him if you're Buffalo? And the only other guy is Reilly Smith, who only has a year left in his 30. So I'm a little concerned as to who the hell Vegas are giving up here to get this to go through.
I have my theory about Vegas, who had a weird start to the season. They're I mean, they're 4-4, but they didn't have the greatest start. I say if you're trading for Jack Eichel, it's just, I don't know. how you do anything else. Like they're still up above their $6 million over the cap. Yeah, they got a bunch of guys on LTIR, but you have to fit $10 million in that cap because we know Buffalo is not retaining salary. I say they make this trade. Vegas goes, we have whatever year we have. And then you go, we're going to murder that division next year with Eichel and Carlson as your 1-2 and maybe Nolan Patrick as your 3. You still have Robin Leonard.
Yeah.
Like, if you're giving up a piece, I know Merrick suggested Nick Hague because Payne Krebs is off the table, but still, like, I think this team maybe has an off year and comes back next year if they trade for Eichel. And if they're coming back next year, they're coming back strong.
My only question is, what about that owner? Because we know he's like, I want to win now. It would make sense. Like, it's something like a team like Pittsburgh, we know are good.
Yes.
But even when Pittsburgh has set, quote, retooled, they've been playoff teams, but they haven't been uber competitive, right? Tampa may be at that point now. We'll see. That's the one thing I have is what sort of, like, what does the owner say there? Because we know how aggressive he is.
So,
Bomber, do you have? Sorry, Alex.
No, yeah, go ahead.
No, I let Alex go first.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, you go up to that owner and you say, well, listen, we're going to trade for Jack Eichel, who is a top center in this league, who will lead us for years to come. So if we have one off year,
Go ahead, Bomber.
Yeah, it's Jack Eichel. Like, I mean, you do what you need to do to get Jack Eichel in Vegas. It's funny because we've seen a lot with Vegas getting players, bringing them in, and then moving them. I think I did say this on this show. If I'm signing in Vegas, I'm not signing without a trade clause, some sort of trade clause, because what's stopping them from trading me to Buffalo? Because I don't want to live in Buffalo for the 6 years of my contract, because you're not getting out of Buffalo. You won't. Unless Bill Zito's trading for you, then you're probably getting out of Buffalo. But you do what you need to do to get Jack Eichel. You do have guys coming off the books next year, and you're going to put Eichel in LTIR anyways for a while. And there's always a way to kind of move money in and out. You can throw some draft picks at teams at the deadline. Just pray they help you out with that. You go for Jack Eichel. You have to give up guys like Nolan Patrick. You're going to have to trade one of your some of your prospects, whoever Vegas has still, because I know they trade all of them too. If you can make it happen, you make it happen.
Fair enough. I remember when I put that poll up saying, do you trade Suzuki and Caulfield for Eichel? And you said yes, because it's Eichel. It's that simple. Good players. And we know Vegas do love to go get the good players, don't we? All right. The rest of the stuff here is, just injury stuff. Drew Doughty's out for a little bit. That's a shame. He was having a good start. Same with Nikita Kucherov. But good news, everyone. It is not long enough where he will be out for the entirety of the season. But technically, reminder what Cap Friendly tweeted out. If they get Eichel now, they can put him on LTIR. He can come back for the playoffs. It's just, how do they pull it off? I don't know. Would we be surprised? No, and it's sickening. Listen, you lost in the first round. My team lost in the final. No one wants Tampa to fail more than me, buddy. Don't worry.
Well, the one problem with Tampa doing that deal is they already lost their entire bottom line because of cap restraints from the last 2 cup runs. Yeah, you could theoretically just all right, let's go 3-peat right now if Jack Eichel can actually play this season because he's injured. And if Jack Eichel can't play, you just not only screwed yourself this season because you're going to have to trade a lot to get him, and Tampa doesn't have a lot to trade. You guys are going to have to move a Stamkos or a Point, which you're not going to do.
Oh, I feel like they would move Stamkos. I think they move Stamkos in the offseason.
Hold on. You won't be able to move a Point, which you shouldn't.
But to move Stammer, though, we know from previous reports that he's only going to go to Vegas. And if you're Vegas,
full no trade clause.
Steven Stamkos does have a full no trade clause, no move. Yeah.
Well, hey, they still need centers in Vegas, right?
Yeah, but if you're Vegas, why the hell do I want 32-year-old broken Steven Stamkos who can't score 5-on-5 anymore?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like that's
It's
the
the
one
NHL.
thing. Like, yeah, but they aren't complete idiots. Some of them
Fair.
are.
That's a good
Hi,
point.
Vancouver, but
That's
you
a
know what I
good,
mean.
that's a good point. That's a good
I didn't
point.
say that.
No.
Anyway, hey, maybe Tampa do the thing of it's one more year. So what if we lose? Who's up this year? Andre Palat's a good player. He's always so quiet. That's one of those players where you always remember, damn, why the hell did they have Andre Palat? That's mean. But still, I mean, you never know. It would be funny, but then it would instantly be like, I hate this. Hi, Perry playing on the top line because spite you, Montreal, you losers. Remember how on the offseason everyone was like, listen, after Kucherov's drunken tirade after they won the cup, and everyone was like, if anyone's having a bad time in Montreal when Tampa are in town, the way that the whole of Montreal are playing right now is if you just come out and spank Tampa like 6-0 or something, could you just imagine that? Imagine that. Anyway, yeah, I've lost my train of thought there, but okay. Do you guys have anything you'd like to talk about? There's a lot of stuff here, but we're gonna wait for Daniel to come back to talk about Shovel Day off staying put. We've talked about Coach Q. We talked about Taves and Kane. We'll talk about some of the stuff to do with Aldrich and his name possibly being off the cup next week. Even though we've missed an opportunity because we have the guy who works for the Hockey Hall of Fame, but still, And again, hopefully there's some more updates to do with Donald Fear and all that.
I have
and
an
again,
update.
Okay, really? What is it?
This is 40 minutes ago. David Pagnotta, PA Executive Board call wrapped up about 15-20 minutes ago. Initial reactions under the circumstances is that there was good dialogue and it was informative. Also told not to expect any change at the executive director level, which executive director would be Donald Fair.
I would like to know how that conversation went because besides what's happened with Beach, it's not like Donald Fear has a glowing resume to begin with. AKA, if I'm Jack, how much do you think Jack Eichel's a fan of Don Fear right now? Because I don't think he is. I'm very, especially with how mad the players were apparently, I'd really like to know how good what the PA had to say was. Because so far the only thing they've ever done for the players is Olympics. And we lost that for a couple of years.
And they barely, and the PA barely wanted to go to the Olympics.
And they could still leave the Olympics too, which is the funny thing. But we just don't talk about that because we really hope they go. Anything else you guys want to mention, Alex, Baumber, anything, or you think we're good to go here?
Well, since we're on the PA, just quickly, Ted Lindsay is not a happy man if he sees what the PA is doing.
No,
man, you talk about a guy who, wasn't it him wasn't it like Lindsay was the first guy who to make sure his family could go to his Hall of Fame ceremony, and it was like because of the stuff with the PA. It was like why Detroit scolded him or something. The story of guys like him, Bauer, and Beliveau, I think they've been referred to as sort of the three gentlemen of hockey's history. Definitely go look that up. But that's just you make a very, very good point there, Al. Bomber. God damn it. Anyway, see, this is why you should host, because then you don't have to refer to yourself. And it's just Alex, go ahead. Okay, and then, since you're here, we're finishing off. Why don't you plug all your stuff? Because it's all very good.
All right, so if you guys want to hear more Panthers content, you can find me over on Twitter at Baumgartner91. You can also find my content on 5 Reasons Sports and 5 Reasons YouTube. I do a weekly show there about the Florida Panthers, as well as articles occasionally, and I do run the Florida Panthers 5 Reasons affiliated well, we're not affiliated with the Panthers. 5 Reasons Beat Twitter account, 5th Line 5R.
Mm-hmm. All right. And again, next time we have you, it's not actually going to talk about hockey. It's going to be the whole Cape review. Because never forget. Okay.
But will all 4 of us be here?
No.
Of course not.
Absolutely not. In fact, it won't be. There will be 4 of us, but we'll just have Will Baldwin on. Who knows? Okay. Thank you for listening. Always fun. Again, thank you for coming on, Alex. We always appreciate it. Always nice to have you on with that lovely, lovely Panthers background. Is that a Dolphins hat you have on? Or is it just a Florida that's
This is
Happened
a
to be in
Trinidad and
college.
Tobago hockey hat
Oh wow.
from the Mighty Ducks movie.
Wow.
So,
Not bad.
it's pretty
Oh,
clean.
the hat hair looks great, eh?
Hey, right? Got the helmet hair going.
That's great. All right. Well, yeah, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, download it. Why not? Rate it on iTunes. It's not iTunes anymore. It's podcast app, and it's horrible because you can't multi-select to delete stuff anymore. It's absolutely awful. Fix it, Apple. All that money, and you can't make a... Stop messing with the podcast app. It was good. Stop it. It's like playing Jonathan Drew in its center. It makes no sense.
And
Anyway, check
put
out...
the audio jack back.
Yeah, oh, don't even...
Don't even
so
get you
much.
started.
There's so much. Anyway, yeah, check out the show on TikTok and all that. Alex does a great job with that. Again, yeah, check out all the Bomber stuff. Check out my YouTube channel. Keep your eye out, if you're anyone from the school listening, for next Wednesday's Thing of the Eye Opener, because there might be a story about the new ski and snowboard club coming out.
What?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but sorry, Gavin. Anyway, that's it. Thank you. We'll see you later.